you can close your eyes and not perceive the sun, but it would still influence through gravitational pull the Earth, right? There would be influence outside of perception, or the moon and the waves. How do you how does your argument feature that influence outside of perception?
Right. So even our experience of gravity is, from the point of view of evolution by natural selection, merely a format of our perceptions, not a deep truth. So Einstein's theory of gravity says that gravity is the shape of space-time, the curvature of space-time.
I'm nodding my head, but I'm like, I'm a
crazy,
simple
right?
Texan just trying to put this together. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Well, almost everybody's had trouble with Einstein's theory there, but it's incredible that gravity is, according to Einstein, how space is curved. That's what it is. So we think of space as, well, if we think about it at all, is flat. And Einstein said, no, it's not flat, it curves. And it's the fact that we live in curved space that's pushing my seat into the chair right now. I'm sitting pushed into the chair, not because there's a force of gravity, but because I'm in a curved space and I'm just moving along the curve, and that curve is putting me into my chair. And so it's a strange thing to wrap your head around. But then I'm saying that space-time itself, which Einstein took as fundamental, right? He's saying space-time is fundamental, but it curves, and that's what gravity is. I'm saying space-time is doomed. Space-time is not fundamental. There's something deeper.
And where does that epilogue go, or the next chapter? If space-time is maybe the second, third chapter, what is chapter 4?
What is the deeper reality?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the right answer is I don't know. But as a scientist, I'm going to propose a theory, and
please,
and then hopefully my other scientists will come along and spank me with their own, mathematics and their own observations.
Well, what's great is you've already proven to be very, very, very thoughtful if someone's going to go against what you're thinking, because you tend to follow it up with theorems. But yeah, tell me, if chapter 3 is space-time, is infinite, that is the reality. What's chapter 4?
So my proposal is that consciousness is fundamental. And the reason I go there is partly poverty of my imagination in the following sense. One of the biggest open problems in cognitive neuroscience today, what we call the hard problem of consciousness. And it's the question of how our conscious experiences, like the taste of chocolate, the smell of garlic, a headache, the feeling of velvet, how are these simple conscious experiences related to brain activity, or to the physical world more generally? But usually we think about it in terms of brain activity. And we call it the hard problem of consciousness because my brilliant colleagues have, for many decades now, been trying to show how brain activity can cause specific conscious experiences, and have utterly failed. We can't, none of the theories can explain how brain activity causes even one specific conscious experience. And we can go into those theories and why they fail if you're interested. But so my attitude was, okay, if we failed to start with physical stuff like the brain, and we can't boot up consciousness. And now evolution is telling us, well, it's a theorem that no physical objects exist when they're not perceived anyway. Brains don't exist when they're not perceived. So that's why they don't do it. The reason why we can't get brain activity to boot up consciousness is because brain activity isn't fundamental. It doesn't even exist when it's not perceived. So let me start the other way. Let me start with consciousness and try to boot up space, time, and brains. So most of my colleagues are starting with space, time, and brains and try to boot up consciousness. But that contradicts evolution by natural selection. Evolution by natural selection says it's the wrong direction.
It's not too dissimilar from, you have the brain, and last night you created an entire world in your dream that included walls, that included other people, and that dream included you having a brain within it. And
that's exactly right.
And you felt like it was real, and yet that was a complete figment of consciousness.
That's a good analogy to think about this as, space-time is just the format of the dream. So this is a dream in consciousness. Or I like to use virtual reality headset. And so here's the big picture of where I'm going with this. I'm proposing that reality is like a vast social network of interacting conscious entities that I call conscious agents. So think about the Twitterverse, right? There's tens of millions of Twitter users, billions of tweets. There's no way that a Twitter user could ever read all the tweets or interact with all the tweets. It's just overwhelming. So what do we do when we have just overwhelming quantities of social media data? What do? We use visualization tools. Ideal case would be to have a VR headset that we use that I can like zoom out and see what's trending in all of the United States, and zoom in and see what's trending in New York City, and then zoom down.
Zoom in and see what my 3 friends are saying.
My friends are doing
right
exactly. Zoom back out, and notice when you do that, you're going to have some simple eye candy, like colorful objects that are doing certain things that you know how to interpret. That, oh, this is what's trending in New York versus what's trending in Beijing, and so forth. And you don't, only if you zoom into a particular Twitter user are you going to see an actual user, right? Most of the time, you're only going to see icons that are sort of smearing over and simplifying stuff. Well, that's the point. So reality is this vast social network of conscious agents, and some conscious agents have a visualization tool. We call it space-time and physical objects. So space-time is just the VR headset that some agents, maybe a very, very small, vanishing small fraction of agents, use the kind of headset that we use. Most conscious agents probably have conscious experiences that you and I can't even concretely imagine.
Meaning like a red blood cell has a different conscious experience that we
Great question. It's not that, for example, red blood cells are conscious, or in fact, strictly speaking, the human body is not conscious, right? The human body that you see is just an icon that you create when you look at me. When I look at you, I see an icon that I create of your body. When I look away, I delete that icon. Fortunately, I don't delete your consciousness. Your consciousness still exists. So the body that I created is clearly not identical to your consciousness because you're still conscious. And
potentially could be solipsistic, and you are just playing around in the VR world by yourself.
You're absolutely that. I can't dismiss solipsism, which is the idea that all that exists is me and my perceptions. I mean, I can't dismiss that, although I'm not proposing it, but I can't dismiss it.